Hi there, in this video I'm going to give you my top tips for success as a medical writer using my 5 pillars of medical writing framework. The first pillar I call technical writing because this is concerned with all of the nitty-gritty that you need to be able to write clearly, concisely and consistently for your audience. So my top tip here is to become absolutely obsessed with the details. Okay, so if you get feedback on your work, I want you to go away and read about why something has changed. I want you to think about, should you use a hyphen or an end rule? Should you put the comma inside the speech marks or outside of the speech marks? Are you talking about Hodgkin lymphoma or Hodgkin's lymphoma? Okay, these are the details that you need to start caring about and really reading up about, so that you get your technical writing skills right. The second pillar is scientific understanding. Now, it's really important to get up to speed on new therapy areas. It's one of the most exciting features of being a medical writer is that you're working on different things all of the time. But my top tip here is for your audience, less might be more. And what I mean by that is just because you as a medical writer are new to a certain therapy area, it may not be appropriate to include all of that new information for your audience. Let me imagine a doctor, for example, and you're writing about COVID-19. That doctor has lived through the pandemic and is very familiar with COVID-19 as an infectious disease. So it might not be appropriate for you to, if you're writing a piece about that, to include lots of background information. What your audience would be honed in on is what treatments are available right now, how could I use them appropriately for different patients, which treatments might be coming through very soon. Okay, so my top tip under scientific understanding is less is more. Third pillar I call agency skills because this is to do with all of the soft skills around medical writing. And I've actually got 2 tips here. First is to do with communication and the second to do with time management. So the first is feel free to over communicate but don't over promise. And what I mean by that is when you're working in a team or with a client, it's great to give them frequent updates. Yes, I'm planning to finish this project by the agreed deadline. I'm fine to work within the budgeted hours, or perhaps in some cases I'm going to need a few more budgeted hours than we expected. What's not okay is to overpromise. So if you say, oh yes, I'll have that to you by tomorrow, if realistically that's not going to happen and you're going to have to go back to them and say, actually, I can't get it for you tomorrow. Okay, so my top tip there, over communicate but don't overpromise. The fourth pillar is storytelling. And here, again, we're thinking about our audience and we're thinking about conveying the data and our key messages in a way that's appropriate for the audience. And often, the simplest presentation is the best. So rather than thinking about a complex sort of infographic or spider plot, for example, sometimes a bar chart or a simple line graph is the best storytelling technique. Okay, so always thinking about your audience, always thinking about what you want them to understand and how you can present your information in the right way for them. And we're going to continue that theme of thinking of our audience in the final pillar, which is I term strategic thinking. Okay, so at the start of every single project, my top tip is to think about your audience. What don't they know now that you want them to know by the end of your paper or presentation or whatever? Okay, so really tailor your content again to your audience and make sure that those key learning points are going to stand out. Okay, so that's my top 5 tips for success as a medical writer. Don't forget, if you want more information, I'm available at greenpensolutions.com and on my LinkedIn profile.